Welcome back to the Next Generation Critic. If you are new here, each episode is treated like a school project, starting with 100 points, with 1 point taken away for each error until there is nothing left, and I make snarky comments along the way. Also, still photos are used extensively since video clips are a magnet for copyright claims. Also, some science fiction technology gets a pass since without it there would be no show, like the transporter, artificial gravity, and the universal translator. Today's episode is The Child, the first second season episode. An alien impregnates Deanna Troi to experience humanity. The first point is lost for not having Diana Muldaur listed as a regular. No wonder she had a bad time. Another point lost since Shuttle Bay 3 has a door at an angle, and there's no visible animation when the shuttle goes through the force field. Riker has a beard. -1 point for that sandbag on the floor. Jonathan Frakes performs the Riker maneuver. Riker is talking to the chief engineer. Who is he talking to? Is it McDougal, Shimoda, Singh, Argyle, Logan, or Leland T. Lynch? None of those. The new permanent chief engineer is Geordi LaForge. Yes! And I think this is the last time you see them use a hologram on a table. Aww. And is this the only time they mention they work in opposite shifts? Is this a reverse Riker maneuver? Wesley says I number 1. Wesley steers the ship while Riker lets out a really good fart. Then Wesley says I number 2. Data says I number 3. Just how many times do they come in contact with a life form that lives in space and then act like they've never seen that before? This is a sign for the woke liberals of today that even an alien from the future knows that men can't get pregnant. Another point lost here, since the producers just lost 2 lead females on claims of the show being sexist, and the remaining female's first scene of the second season opener is to look like she's having non-consensual sex with an alien. I know that's the plot of the show, but the timing was bad. -1 point for the reflection of a boom mic. Dr. Pulaski arrived on the Repulse the night before. Not one of those 3 went to go greet her, so -1 point. Data says I number 4. Jean-Luc performs the Picard maneuver. Sick Bay says I number 5, so it's time to take a drink. Looks like Dr. Pulaski beat us to the bar. Data says I number 6. Picard is thinking, well heck, I'm gonna have a drink with the doctor too. While Worf is thinking, Dr. Pulaski's gonna get an ass whooping now. Wesley's thinking, wait, I wanna get plastered with the doctor too. -1 point for Wesley still being on the ship. He would have gone with his mom. Of course, Beverly is having a blast right now since she can have a different guy over every night and not worry about the kid popping in at the wrong time. -1 point for a single set of doors on the turbolift. Wesley says I love you. Picard says I know. In reality, it would have been better for Wesley to go with his mom since he would be right next door to Starfleet Academy. Did you notice the 3 main female characters are in the bar drinking while all the men are working? That's sexist. So we're just gonna drink again. And now we meet Diana Muldaur as Dr. Pulaski. Now for the meeting. Picard wants to know, there was a writer's strike. There are 4 less episodes. 2 of the women are gone because the producers are a bunch of creepy old men. How are we possibly going to make it through the second season? Riker says, I have a beard now and I'm sexy. That will bring in the women viewers. Worf says, look out, Commander. In today's world, it might not be just women checking you out. Deanna says, you have it all wrong. The reason everyone watches Star Trek at 7 is because Baywatch is on at 8. David Hasselhoff and Erica Eleniak are why we're here. If the Babes on the Beach get cancelled, so do we. I should know since I'm the only girl left that it was all about the cleavage. Captain Picard says Deanna is pregnant. Riker says, seriously? The first baseman is the father? But Deanna says, it could have been the second or third baseman, I'm not really sure. I had a really good time on shore leave. -1 point here. They keep saying that the baby is just like Deanna, but it is a male, so something is going on. If they watched Jurassic Park, they would know that clones are naturally female. Worf says the baby should be aborted. Data says, let's study it like we're aliens in a cornfield. Deanna says, I'm going to be an old-fashioned mom like Trek producers think women should be. If you didn't know, Marina Sirtis hated this show and I don't blame her. And I'm sure she'll hate my comments too, and I'm not going to blame her for that either. Picard and Riker are both like, whoa, that was the weirdest meeting we've ever had. Another point lost for the captain's log. If you are transferring deadly viruses, you need to leave a stardate since this might be the last recording the ship ever sends out. -1 point for Deanna being on the bridge. With a 36-hour pregnancy, anything could go wrong and she should be in sickbay the entire time. Look closely. Both Riker and Picard stand up while a pregnant Deanna sits down. Chivalry will return in the future. This alien must be pumping her up with some really good drugs so she feels wonderful during this time. There are 512 deadly viruses around him, but his mask isn't on correctly, so -1 point. -1 point for not separating the saucer, which is maintaining social distancing. So they are going to out at 9 to pick up the viruses, take them to the space station to create a cure for a plague on another planet.
Everybody got that?
Picard sings his favorite song from WALL-E. Data says I number 7. If both Data and Deanna are going to sickbay, they wouldn't be traveling in opposite directions, so -1 point. You could say Data was going to stop at the bathroom first, but I don't think he was. Don't tell anybody, but it just looks like a big bag of birdseed to me. -1 point for Pulaski turning down Data volunteering to be a coach, since it's Deanna's choice and not hers. You know the alien is pumping her up full of drugs if she's feeling no pain for this. It may seem unnecessary to have security when someone is giving birth to an alien, but look what happened the last time. Worf tells them, get to the fetal position. The guards are like, what the heck are you talking about? When did Deanna get time to put makeup on for the delivery? So -1 point. That is the worst looking birthing chair of the future they could find, so -1 point. This baby is slimy, now he's all cleaned up, so -1 point. Worf is sad that it's just a baby, he wanted to shoot it. Data thanks Deanna for letting him participate. Just how much has he participated with her? Dr. Pulaski thinks the baby can already talk. Now she quotes the Vulcan computer. -1 point for too many reflected lights in the back. Now Riker says he's delivered babies too. -1 point for this conversation taking place on the bridge and not behind closed doors. Riker says I number 8. A reminder, if you see a 1-day-old child this big, you should run. So in that 1 day, did Deanna ever have to change a diaper? We will never know. Plus he can talk. Picard right now is considering beaming that little kid out into space. Deanna's thinking, I know what you're thinking, Captain, and don't even try it. -1 point for a captain's log talking down to the audience like we all forget everything during the commercials. Now for the big debate.
Data, look at this.
Dr. Pulaski got a bad rap from Trek fans for treating Data like a machine, but there will be people who won't see artificial intelligence as a life form. But she is also more curious about Data all year, and is the only one who sides with him later on Pen Pals. So instead of trashing Dr. Pulaski, I'm giving her credit for trying to learn as much as she can about Data and eventually becoming good friends with him. Dr. Pulaski says if this gets out, we will all die, including all the families on the ship. And since neither of them consider separating the ship or maybe using a small ship with a small crew for dangerous missions like this, they lose a point. Data says I number 9. Now for a cute puppy scene. Aww. So would Ian stop growing if he became an adult? We never find out. And they get to play holographic video games. There is some confusion about saying cargo deck instead of cargo bay and saying docking bay instead of shuttle bay, so -1 point. The cargo bay has a transporter, so -1 point for transporter room doing the work. Geordi says I number 10, so it's time for another drink. 512 deadly viruses are being uploaded into this container. -1 point for them being beamed up and not transported by shuttle. -1 point for none of them wearing protective suits. And -1 point for Picard and Pulaski checking up on the kid instead. Ian is growing fast and very polite, but not perfect with English yet. He should say, you should go to the nursery while the puppies are still there. Dr. Pulaski also thinks Ian is the first baseman. Picard says, take the ship to Rachelis, but that's where the plague is, not the science station, so -1 point. This is a unique shot of looking into the 10 forward window, but I have to take a point for a visible camera. And why is the window dirty? Are those water spots on the outside? Minus 1 more point. Guinan decides to hit on Wesley Crusher before he goes back to his mom. Her goal of him staying on the ship has nothing to do with Wesley pursuing his own goals, it's her goals. Now she tries to get Wesley drunk, and Wesley's like, "What the heck are you up to?" Wesley does not follow the teachings of Yoda. The Enterprise zooms off at 216 times the speed of light, and strangely nothing inside moves, while Wesley's thinking, does Guinan want to go where no one has gone before? And almost instantly, one of the plague viruses goes bad. This never happens on Star Trek, does it? Minus 1 point for not posting the star date on what might be the last captain's log, and minus 1 point for not separating the ship. Why did they make this poor extra play 3D chess all by herself? So minus 1 point. So I guess 300 years in the future it's okay for to have a teenager at the bar? Guinan lies to Wesley Crusher about how long she's met the captain. How will he ever trust her now? Wesley says, "I number 11. Wesley fell for the age-old trick of the older woman luring the young boy in with dessert. We'll never see him again. And just what was the rest that she gave him? We will never know. And Wesley looks a little dreamy-eyed when he thanks her, doesn't he? The deadly virus is growing exponentially, and they still haven't put on the bubble wrap. Minus 1 point. They didn't consider beaming it into space with all the atoms dispersed, or putting the pod in a shuttle and aiming it at a star, so minus 1 point. Riker finally recommends evacuating the star drive section. This strain was exposed to Eichner radiation, and the source is the third baseman. Minus 1 point for at least 2 typos in the text. Data suggests that Eichner radiation is found in superglue, but I don't think Riker believes that theory. Ian realizes he is the problem and dies. Aww. Riker, Data, and Pulaski were all with the plague pod, which is about to explode, and all 3 of them leave it and come here, so minus 1 point. Deanna says they must save him, but those 3 are thinking, well, maybe we shouldn't because he's the cause of the plague exploding. When he disappears, the blanket doesn't naturally move, so minus 1 point. And she's not looking straight at the light, so minus 1 more point. And she's not watching it again, so minus 1 more point. Deanna describes the entity's goal and says she will miss him, but doesn't recommend that the next time he asks before impregnating somebody, so minus 1 point. Minus 1 point for black squares in the back panel. Wesley says, I number 12. Data says, I number 13. Geordi poses like Peter Pan. Minus 1 point for a scientist leaning on a pod full of 512 deadly plagues. That's how COVID started. And this time they might never make a vaccine. Minus 1 point for Geordi standing too close to a person being beamed out. Who knows, he might get beamed out too. Hey, that looks just like Regula 1. As usual in Trek, an extra crosses whenever somebody goes through a door. Wesley wants to stay on the ship. This way he doesn't have his mother around and can fool around all he wants. The transfer is complete and they are ready to leave orbit. So why are they still heading towards the space station and why are they not orbiting anything? So minus 1 point. Now for some terribly cheesy finishing lines for the episode. Jean-Luc performs the Picard maneuver. These lines got a little too cheesy, so minus 1 point. And minus 1 point because Worf only has 2 lines in the whole show. And of course there's probably no way a teenager's gonna fly a ship, but I already took a point for that earlier. So, who was the alien? Dory Kaler played the crewman. Don Arneman was Mrs. Gladstone with 14 screen credits. Zachary Benjamin has 15 screen credits. R.J. Williams has 50 screen credits including Baywatch and the voice of Tailspin. He spent 10 years as a producer for the show Young Hollywood. Seymour Cassel has over 200 screen credits including Batman, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea, Convoy, Rushmore, and continued acting almost to the time of his death at the age of 84. Yeah! And we will see a lot more of Diana Muldaur, Whoopi Goldberg, and Colomini. The Child, the second season opener and the first Trek show with puppies on the ship, gets a score of 53%. Thanks for viewing. Be sure to leave comments below, click the like button, the share button, the subscribe button, and I'll see you next week when the Enterprise encounters Nagilum.